I'm Mike von Stuyven. Over the past couple of months, myself and a couple of friends have been experimenting with a AR-15 accessory known as a can cannon. For those unfamiliar with this device, it is a standalone upper receiver that takes a standard AR-15 bolt carrier group, charging handle, and lower receiver, and uses 5.56 blanks to launch 12-ounce soda cans, tennis balls, etc., up to about 100 yards. In a previous video, Bolt Boy and I demonstrated how to make launchable smoke grenades for the can cannon. These dual-purpose smoke rounds, or DPS for short, are the game changer because we finally have a projectile for the can cannon that is easy to make, easy to use, relatively cheap to produce at $20 a pop, has real-world tactical applications, and best of all, doesn't require any sort of special permit from the government to manufacture. But we haven't stopped there. Bolt Boy and I have also taken the opportunity to use both the DPS rounds and the can cannon in multiple training events to test it and find out what the practical tactical applications of it are. We have also worked hard to produce a tactical SOP for the can cannon, the DPS rounds, and the man who carries it, the Squad Grenadier.
This video will cover capabilities and limitations of the can cannon, manual of arms and condition codes, and loading and firing procedures. A separate video will cover tactics and battle drills.
Before we go any further, let's have a good old-fashioned disclaimer. For the purposes of this video, I'm only going to cover tactics and capabilities with regard to the 66mm DPS rounds, and not any other type of projectile. All of the activities discussed in this video are hypothetical in nature, and the information presented is for educational purposes only. Do not violate any local, state, or federal laws trying to replicate or expound upon the activities presented here. With that out of the way, let's begin. The can cannon is a shoulder-fired, hybrid-loaded, standalone launcher capable of launching 66mm projectiles using a standard M200 5.56 blank as a propellant. It is a medium-weight launcher, weighing in at 5.3 pounds unloaded. It has a maximum range of 120 meters when firing 340 to 400 gram projectiles. There are at present three types of ammunition for this weapon: the M7 DPS, M8 and M12 dummy training rounds, and M9 smoke marker. The M7 DPS is the dual-purpose smoke round, so called because they can either be launched or hand-thrown like normal smoke grenade. It is made with an EG-18 smoke grenade at its core, using a soda can as a non-separating sabot. It is ignited by means of a pin-pulled friction fuse, and generates smoke for 90 seconds. The smoke cloud generated is slightly smaller than that produced by military-grade M18 smoke grenades. We will cover firing procedures later in the video. The M8 dummy round is simply an expended M7 DPS projectile. It can be refired over and over again until it becomes physically damaged by impacting hard surfaces. Simply tape a used ignition pin to the top, and you can drill the full firing procedures. The M9 smoke marker is made with a WP-40 smoke grenade instead of an EG-18. It puts out roughly half the smoke of an M7 DPS, but for the same amount of time, making it only suitable for signaling or marking. The only advantages to the M9 is the price. WP-40 smokes are about half as expensive as EG-18s, so they're useful as marking rounds if you need to save money and don't want or need all of your smokes to be M7 DPS. We will now cover the manual of arms for this weapon, as it is slightly different from that of a standard AR-15. Bolt Boy will now help me demonstrate the condition codes for this weapon, as well as loading and firing procedures.
The weapon as shown is in condition 4, magwell empty, chamber empty, tube empty, safety on. Inserting a magazine of blanks puts the weapon into condition 3, magazine inserted, chamber empty, tube empty, safety on. From here, you can make the weapon condition 2 by racking the charging handle and chambering a blank. This is the preferred condition of the weapon when it is carried on a patrol. Magazine inserted, blank in the chamber, tube empty, safety on. The last step in readying the weapon for firing is partially inserting a DPS round into the tube as shown, with one hand ready to pull the pin as the other hand steadies the tube. The weapon is now in condition 1, magazine inserted, blank in the chamber, projectile hanging or seated in the tube. From condition 1, the DPS round is fired by pulling the pin sideways, quickly shove it down the tube the remaining inch or so, aim, and fire the blank. The timing of the fuse is such that it starts producing smoke at or shortly before the moment that the round impacts the deck. It then produces smoke for approximately 90 seconds. To achieve the maximum range of 120 meters, hold the tube 45 degrees above horizontal. X Products does make a sight for this launcher, but we've not found it particularly useful. There is no gas system and the weapon will not cycle the action, so you must immediately rack the charging handle to put the weapon back into condition 2. What you are seeing now is the effects downrange of a single M7 DPS round. Multiple of these can be fired to produce a smoke screen, which will be discussed later on in the tactics portion of this video.
A word of caution here. Smoke grenades are a fire hazard, so ensure that the conditions downrange are such that you will not be starting a grass fire while you're training with this weapon.
Let's look at the Grenadier's loadout. The Grenadier should carry a carbine as his primary weapon, switching to the launcher only when called upon. When he does, his carbine should be slung on his back, like so, with the sling tightened, leaving his hands free to manipulate the launcher. For this reason, and given the additional weight of the tube plus grenades, I recommend that his carbine be an AR or AK pistol, short and lightweight, to prevent the muzzle from sticking into the dirt when he takes a knee. The cannon itself is best carried strapped to the side of an assault pack, in condition 2. For backpacks with only one side strap, I use an Eagle Industries weapon catch, which holds the tube in place while the strap secures the receiver. The tube fits in nice and snug, and slides out easily. Now let's look at ammunition. Specific loadout will vary depending on the mission, but a baseline standard should be 7 M7 DPS rounds, at least 3 of which easily accessible. Due to the ignition pin on the outside, I do not recommend carrying DPS rounds loose in a backpack. They should be in a dedicated pouch that protects the pin. An Eagle Industries M60 ammo pouch designed for belt-fed machine gun ammo fits 3 rounds comfortably. A Milsurp SAW ammo pouch can hold 5 M7 DPS rounds, but is not a snug fit and moves around a good bit when only partially filled. It's a perfect candidate for the outside of a backpack. For carrying individual rounds, military surplus pouches designed for smoke grenades, like this Molly 2 pouch, and this one from Eagle Industries, fit DPS rounds perfectly. However, any double AR magazine pouch without a divider will also work, just with a little extra room. One advantage to the M7 DPS round is that it is dual purpose, as the name implies. It can still be hand-thrown since it is just an EG-18 at its core. If you have a Grenadier on your team and everyone is carrying a smoke grenade anyway, there's no reason for those grenades not to be M7 DPS rounds so that team leaders can resupply the Grenadier if necessary. The Grenadier should also have a multi-tool on his gear. Really, everyone should. He should also have a small butane lighter just in case he has to manually ignite a fuse when a pin fails. I say butane because it is wind resistant and therefore more reliable. Also, it's quite handy for lighting cigars.